Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop and Scott Talk Baseball. Thank you to people that left kind words again last week, and I will have a question in this show for you, Dad, that was forwarded to me. Somebody wanted your thoughts on something, so we'll get to that sometime in this 30 to 45 minutes we're usually on. Coming to you a little bit later. Things come up in the real world. Couldn't have this done when we wanted to. But so the people that usually listen to it on Monday morning, you'll get it Tuesday morning.
We're actually doing it on Monday when it usually comes out.
Right. Yeah. I will still upload it tonight, but you'll have it for your Tuesday ride to work. I had some complaints already. So Dad, I didn't get to watch much baseball this weekend, but I was keeping up. My Mets were playing late, and it just seems, like we're saying, that wild card position in both leagues is getting
just like last
crazy. Week. Yeah, it's getting crazy. It's getting deep.
Baseball accomplished what they wanted to accomplish by adding that extra team. It makes it crazier.
It's almost like, the NFL where everybody is fighting for spots even up to the last week. This is getting wild. Mets were in the wild card spot. Now they're back out of the wild card spot with the Braves. On the other side, we talked about it before we went on. We got the Diamondbacks just balling. The Mariners, Astros, Padres. Just fun. I said last week, it's just a fun time.
It is
for the baseball season. And I didn't know, as I'm always saying this, I grew up early days when, it was two divisions in the leagues and all that stuff. And I don't like 4 or 3 divisions. I wish they would do with just 2. But I do like the playoff teams. It just adds a little bit more excitement. I do think they need to subtract some games from the regular season. Go back to maybe 154 like they did back in the 50s. So that way it knock a week or so off of the regular season. But
and that way the playoffs wouldn't go all the way into November.
Right. And it's not we're not worried about snow and things like that. But Dad, what do you got for us this week?
Well, first of all, Freddie Freeman came back last week, Monday night, from the 9 days he took off to be with his son. His son almost passed away. Now he's doing really well, and he wanted to thank all the players that sent him texts and emails and called, and he pointed out that Bryce Harper had texted him. He texted him 2 or 3 times a day, every day, to check on his son to see if
they were playing the Phillies when they came back.
The Phillies, and he turned
what
around.
The Phillies guys did. They took their hats off. They gave him his moment with the fans. It was heartwarming. And Freddie Freeman's a great class act. And his son is a class act. If you ever seen any during the COVID stuff, he showed a lot of his on social media, like what he was doing at home. So,
and his wife. Well, if you have a child, I remember when you were young and you got real sick and were in the hospital, and
I don't
remember.
It
was touch and go for a while, and me and your mom were. When your child is ill and there's something wrong, it's very stressful. But anyway, he thanked everybody, and he thanked Bryce Harper. And he thanked the Phillies for being so gracious that night. The Miami Marlins haven't had a lot to cheer for, but Jesus Sanchez, to this date, he hit the longest home run this week in baseball for the year. It was 480 feet.
Wow, farther than Ohtani's blast, huh?
Yeah, it was 480 feet. It's against Cincinnati, and it's the longest home run hit this year. That was back on Monday also.
Did it barely get out of the field in Miami, or?
Yeah, I think it was the first row. And Philadelphia, who's The last two games, they gave up 10 runs, but their manager said they're going to a 6-man rotation, trying to save their arms in this summer. The Dodgers and the Orioles don't have 6 pitchers between them.
Right.
The way they're going down. Jackson Holiday. Here's one of the things that drives me a little crazy. But anyway, Jackson Holiday of the Orioles, he's the youngest player to ever hit 4 home runs in 3 games. He's 20 years old. He hit 4 home runs in 3 games. Then he hit another 2 more this week. The problem is he's hitting 180. Now, we've talked about this before. Batting averages don't mean anything anymore because they say RBIs.
I want to add something to that. That's his batting average before he went down too.
Yeah, that counts the whole time when he was.
That's his major league batting average. So you have to remember that.
Right, but what I'm pointing out about these, because a lot of batting averages are low. We talked about 40-some people in major leagues have batting averages under 200. Power's great, and you score a lot of runs with power, but you still have to drive in runs when they're when they're in scoring position. And if you don't have batting average, it's hard to do that. And the other thing people don't forget this, folks. In the spring, the ball doesn't fly out of the ballpark unless Aaron Judge or Ohtani's hitting it because it's cold. The wind's different. Everything's different. Okay, you play all summer. It's 100 degrees. The ball is flying. I mean, you hit a pop-up and goes out of the ballpark. So you're hitting all these home runs. Oh, gee whiz. Then you get into playoffs. It's October and early November. It's chilly and cold again. The ball's not flying like it was. So you better have some people can get some base hits. That's all. I'm just saying.
And to add to that, I've always loved this stat. Runs scored with 2 outs. That's my favorite stat. And batting averages with man in scoring position with 2 outs. They're my favorite stats.
Right.
I just love them because they usually, the ones with the top with those stats are playing in the fall mighty late. So look at the rallies that the Diamondbacks did last year to score runs.
Yeah.
And they did that with 1, 2. It didn't matter how many outs there were. And that's just how that's what I like to look at.
Bill Bean, the executive vice president of Major League Baseball, not to be confused like Mad Dog did in his show.
Oakland A's.
With the Oakland A's, Billy Bean. They're 2 different guys. He passed away this week at 68. He had leukemia. He was the second player. He came out in 1999 as gay.
He was having issues. He's been fighting this for a while, hasn't he? Leukemia.
He's had leukemia. Yeah.
He's been fighting it for a while.
And the first player to come out was Glenn Burke back in 1982. Mookie Betts is back, and he's going to be, but they're putting him back in right field tonight, so he won't be having the stress of playing shortstop. My O's. Grayson Rodriguez went out with a right lat strain. Another starting pitcher. They expect him to come back probably by the middle or the late September. The White Sox fired manager Pedro Grifol because they can't fire the team.
Right.
Grady Sizemore, 3-time All-Stars, taking over as interim manager. They've sent out feelers. They've got about 5 or 6 people they want to hire, but nobody wants to work for them. So anyway, I looked this up. They lost 20 games. They lost 21 games in a row. The White Sox lost 21 games in a row. Now, these are the teams that have lost 20 in a row since they started keeping records in baseball. The 1906 Boston Americans, who became the Red Sox. Their final record was 49-105. Now you're going to notice a pattern here. The 1916 Philadelphia Athletics, 36-117. Now this is 20 losses in a row. 1943 Philadelphia Athletics, 20 losses in a row. They wound up 49-105. in the 1969 Expos, and they wound up 52-110. Now, the White Sox, with 21 losses in a row, tied the 1988 Baltimore Orioles, who lost 21 in a row
to start the season.
And got the manager fired
right
before he could get a cup of coffee, and they wound up 54-107, and that was Ripken.
Yeah,
Cal Ripken Sr. And the Philadelphia Phillies, sorry, Michael, 1961 lost 23 in a row, and they wound up 47-107. So those are the teams in the history since they've started keeping records.
Right,
lost 20 in a row. I want to say something about Ron Washington. I like that guy. I just
yeah, he made a mistake and he's bouncing back. Yes,
what he did managing Texas, I just like it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can tell I had a boring day because I was watching an Angels game. This young pitcher, I don't remember his name, but they said all year long, when he gets to about the fourth inning, he just has a problem, fourth or fifth inning. I'm kind of finding out that the announcers on all these games must watch this program because they know I get upset when I hear third time through the lineup.
Yeah.
Very few of them are using that anymore.
Right.
So anyway, they were talking about how he runs into a problem. Sure enough, fifth inning, oh boy, he's having problems. He's having all that. Get a guy warming up in the bullpen. Now the bases are loaded, and there's one out. And you can tell he's getting disgusted. Here we go again. I can't. Ron Washington did not send out his pitching coach. He went out himself. So the announcers, Washington's going to make us change. He walked out of the mound, crossed his arms, looked the young man in the face, said, "Get out of this mess. You got to prove to me right now you're worthy of being on this mound." You could almost read his lips.
Right.
I found out later that's what he told him because the kid said after the game that's what he told him. He patted him on his hip and turned around and walked back to the dugout. The team patted the kid on the back and went back to their positions. The next guy popped up and he struck out the last guy for the last out of the inning. And when he came off the field, he came down the steps of the dugout. Ron Washington hugged him.
Mm-hmm.
Next inning, it's 2 outs. Runner on second base. Ground ball to the shortstop. The catcher's running. Now, the Angels are in the field. The catcher is running for the other team. The shortstop must have thought it was Usain Bolt running because he got the ground. I mean, he grabbed it and instead of planting and throwing like I taught you guys how to do, he fires the ball to first like the guy's running 45 miles an hour. And the ball sailed into the, thank goodness there was a net because they would have killed somebody in the 15th row. The thing hit the net and came down in the well where they had the camera, and the run scored from second base. You get 1-1. So he scored. That shortstop, I felt so he just, so he comes off the field and they go to commercial and all that at the end of the inning. When they came back, before they started the next inning, when they came back, they showed Ron Washington talking to that young man in the dugout. Wasn't hollering at him, wasn't screaming at him, wasn't giving him a ride. He was encouraging him, telling him, take your time, take your time.
Well, that's Ron Washington's an infielder instructor by nature.
Yeah, and he's
a world-class infielder.
I know they're not having a very good year, but they better keep this guy for a few years because if they give him something to work with, he'll make it work.
Right.
He's that kind of a manager.
Mm-hmm. He's good at getting more out of people than what they got too.
Oh yeah. It's just like the guy in Boston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In Baltimore too. I mean, that coach, yeah, he's got some great talent, but they're all 20 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, that's there's some great coaches in this league, and there's some that lack enthusiasm.
Mike Trout is going to have a second surgery on his meniscus.
Right. Right. That's all it needs. Yeah.
I got to talk about my Dodgers. The LA Dodgers. I love them. Right-handed pitcher Brusdar Graterol, reliever. He's out for the year with Tommy John.
Yeah.
River Ryan went out with a sore forearm, and I found out today that he's out for the year. He's going to have surgery. So he lost another starter. I have a question for both the Orioles and the Dodgers, but especially the Dodgers, because this isn't the first year this has happened to them. What kind of a training regimen do you have for your pitchers up and down your organization?
Well,
why are all these pitchers getting hurt every year?
The Orioles have been questioned about that for a long time.
The Orioles have got both of you. What
for decades?
What's going on with the training? What goes on with even stuff like the food they're eating? Their diet. I mean, what are they doing in the off season? Aren't you giving these guys something to work with? I mean, what are you doing? Because there's got to be a reason everybody's getting hurt. So, I mean,
I just think they're doing too. That we talked, me and a couple of my other friends, we talk about we just feel, me and you have talked about this as well, that there's no off season anymore. They don't take a break. They take about a month off if they're lucky, and then if they pitch through the playoffs, it's even less. And then they're right back to trying to get another mile an hour on the fastball or another rotation on their snapping off sliders, because that's the two big pitches right now, and cutters. And especially a cutter, because you put that fresh pressure on your finger, puts more pressure on the tendon in your elbow. I mean, sliders do it too. And that's what's happening. Trying to get more rotation, more speed, because nobody pitches anymore. It's how hard you throw. And that is the issue.
If you get the opportunity to see, the other night the Nationals had this left-handed kid pitching. They just brought him up a month ago, and the left-handed was pitching. I can't remember his name. He was left-handed, and his fastball was 92. And he was pitching against the Cardinals. They couldn't touch him.
Right.
I mean, they couldn't figure it out. He was throwing, his sliders and his pitch, but he was throwing the fastball up, down, in and out. The old Tom Seaver rule. Up, down. He was moving it around, and they could not. They were hitting little weak ground balls and striking out. I mean, he wasn't throwing 100 miles an hour.
You never want to change your plane where the ball is, so they don't. If you keep throwing it don't matter what pitch you're throwing. If you're throwing it in the same pane of window up there, they know a location and they're just going to sit on it. So if you're moving around, that's and then if you change velocity, if you go from 92 to 89, that throws them off too. So the art is lost a little bit. I would love to see it. Stop trying to say they're the next Nolan Ryan. I want to see the next Greg Maddux.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Whitey Ford.
I want to see the next Whitey Ford. I want to see the next Steve Carlton in his later years. I want to see that type of pitcher. I want to see the guys that can put it on a dime back there.
Well, Sandy Koufax. Sandy Koufax came up to the Dodgers in the 50s, and I mean, he was like Nolan Ryan. He had a 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
Right.
But he said he didn't turn out to be the pitcher he was until he learned how to pitch.
Right.
And when he was in his prime, winning all those games, he had one of the best curveballs ever in the game. But his fastball, he knew where it was going. Mm-hmm. And that's the key. He knew where it was going.
I love watching Skeens. Don't get me wrong. Right now, I'm a Skeens believer. But there's going to be a day when that young man is going to he's going to lose some velocity. Not everybody's Chapman and still throwing 103 after 13, 14 years.
Yeah, exactly.
That man's remarkable. And, even though he only throws an inning, but still, age don't play. It's just, that's just the way it is.
It's going to be interesting in the National League to see who wins the Rookie of the Year, because you got Skeens, And you got you got Jackson Merrill of San Diego.
Yeah, he slid a little bit, but man, Skeens is
He and Mel Ott are the only two players to have 5 home runs in the same season after the 8th inning. After the 8th inning started, he and Mel Ott.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard of him.
He's good. Yeah,
So it's going to be between him and Skeens. Skeens will probably win it because he gets the ink. But
it's just hard. If I'm going to pick most of the time, if it's tight like that, I'd rather pick the everyday player because they mean more to me to a team. But Skeens means so much to Pittsburgh every 5th day.
Well, look, why can't you?
Hard to not.
Why don't you have a rookie of the year for a position player and rookie of the year for a pitcher?
Well, Skeens has a possibility to win the Cy Young. I
mean, okay, that's fine, but he could do that and win rookie of the year too.
Right? Yeah. I just think Skeens is.
I'm going to tell you another thing. Merrill is one heck of an outfield.
Yes.
Think about this kid. Just a minute. This kid, he plays for San Diego. So what position does he play? Shortstop.
All of them do.
Everybody on San Diego plays shortstop.
Everybody does.
They just don't line up that way.
Right. They draft nothing but shortstops, and then they'll figure it out in the minor leagues.
They took this kid, drafted him as a shortstop. He's coming up through the minors playing shortstop. They bring him up to the big club in spring training, and they go, hate to break this to you, but we got a shortstop. You're going to have to play right field. Wait a minute. Tatis comes back. They throw him in center field. Say, go get it, son. Play center field. He's playing center field like Willie Mays.
Making all the shortstop playing first. They have a shortstop. They have like 6 shortstops.
Because that's the shortstop is usually the most athletic player on the team.
And I'm sure the pitchers probably played shortstop when they were 12. But
in Little League, they were the shortstop and pitching. Shortstop.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just we talked this year. The draft didn't go that way, but last year, the first round was nothing but shortstops and pitchers. It was like, holy cow! It was like one catcher just kind of. I was like, they must have missed the memo on who they were drafting. Because that is, that team, and I don't know why. But if Merrill played on the East Coast, I think it would be a different story.
If he was a center fielder for the Yankees, imagine.
Well, and I get people get angry, not angry. They want to have a debate with me about the West Coast, East Coast, and I'm like, look at Mookie Betts, look at Soto. Baseball people that earn or know about them. But I'm talking about your casual turn on a ball game. If it's on, see who's playing. They're out of mind because I'm sorry, 50% of the country don't get to see a West Coast game. And the other way around is the West Coast get to see East Coast while they're eating dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's 3 hours difference.
I've lived out there. I know what the differences are. Right now, the Mets were in Seattle. I didn't get a chance to watch them because I had to go to work at 6 a.m.
Well, I mean, it's like the NFL and on the West Coast, the games come on at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
The 1 o'clock game was on at 11 o'clock.
When I lived out there, Sunday at 8 o'clock, the day's over with for football, and I didn't know what to do.
Oh.
Well. So, but anyway, we'll get back to baseball here because I really, I'm just excited every day. I'm looking at the box scores. I'm looking at the stats, watching the game when I can. I'm going to see who's playing tonight. If anybody, Monday night, not too
Monday
much.
night, Monday and Thursday are the travel days.
Right now you get a lot of
the Orioles don't play till tomorrow night. The Yankees play the White Sox tonight, so they'll have a win. And the MLB's ESPN has Texas and Boston on at 7. ESPN.
ESPN usually has a Monday night game.
Yeah, they got Texas Rangers and the Boston Red Sox. And that's the only game that unless you get a local thing.
Oh, Cleveland, Chicago, Tampa, Houston, Royals.
Games, but the only one televised. I'm sorry. MLB is showing a West Coast game late 9:30 o'clock.
I can watch all of these. Royals, Twins, Yankee, Sox, like you said. Let's see. Oh, Pirates are playing San Diego at 9:40. Dodgers at the Brewers, Toronto at LA, so that's 9:38. Yeah, the Angels play early for a West Coast because the Mariners were playing at 10:30 and the Angels are playing they play at 9:30. Because I got to actually
when the Nationals were playing San Francisco, they were playing at 9:30. They're starting at 9:35. Well, see, the Nationals now are starting their games at 6:35 instead of 7. The Orioles are starting some of theirs at 6:35. Don't ask me why.
I know the Mets go back between 6:40 and 7:20. It depends on like what TV, because they got 2 different networks that are on.
Oh, okay. That has something to do with it.
So I'll probably watch Kansas City and Minnesota play tonight a little bit before I go to bed.
Yeah, let me tell you, I watched Minnesota and Cleveland the other day. That was a heck of a game.
And Minnesota's they're coming. They're
when we get into standings, you can see there's some teams that will go rolling or not rolling right now.
Right. I mean, what else you got for us, Dad?
Well, I mean, I'm going to talk about the pitcher Barrett for the Toronto Blue Jays. Yesterday, he had a rough game. He got knocked around a little bit playing up in Toronto. Today, he came out, and when the press talked to him, and this is what he said. They closed the roof.
I've heard this before from others.
My curveball didn't break as much. My slider didn't break as much. I didn't have as much spin or on my four-seam fastball, and my cutter wouldn't break either. So I had to change my mechanics, and that's why I got beat. The roof was closed. Son, your head's closed. I mean,
so I don't understand. Oh no, that's Bassett.
But anyway, that's what he said. Now, if he has the statistics to back that up, here's who you tell that to: your pitching coach and your manager. You don't go public with something like that. You might want to tell your best friend in the locker room, but you don't come out publicly and blame the dome being closed in Toronto for your bad pitching.
You said Barrett or Bassett?
Did I say Barrett? It was Bassett.
Yeah, Chris Bassett.
Chris Bassett, I'm sorry.
That's their number one. Well, maybe their number one pitcher.
Well, Gosselin. But anyway, he came out and said that. And I said, hey, don't say that in public. And they were talking about it on MLB, and they said the same thing. That shouldn't have been said in public. Because, I mean, if you want to talk about it to your pitching coach,
I've heard that before at other stadiums and stuff. Like,
I haven't. That's the first I've heard it.
But I mean, Toronto plays with their roof closed majority of the time.
Well,
night games.
Well, yeah, and then at the beginning and the end of the year because it's Canada.
Right.
All right. Well, look at this.
Hey, it's warmer in Toronto than it is where the Twins play, or Buffalo.
Buffalo. It's like that. Cleveland, right there on Lake Erie, that thing gets cold.
Yeah, Cleveland.
Well, I heard you give a shout out on your show last night to Cleveland. I'm glad of that because Cleveland's, from what I understand, got some good restaurants and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, well, that has something to do with my other universe on this channel, and but yeah, Cleveland was a great time in Cleveland. I don't know, even downtown, it was well done. Bravo to Cleveland for my week there. Yeah.
I'm going to apologize to everybody before I do this because I'm doing the standings again. And I did them yesterday morning before I went to church because I assumed we were going to tape yesterday and then you had to work for 38 hours. So, so then We're doing it today, and I just didn't. I had things to do this morning, and I didn't look anything up. So these are yesterday's standings, and they're close enough.
Right.
In the AL East, the Yankees and the Orioles are tied. They were one game, but
they're tied today.
Yes, the Orioles lost, so they're tied. Yep. The Red Sox are 7.5 back. In the Central, the Cleveland Guardians are up 2.5 games on Minnesota and 3.5 on Kansas City. Cleveland got swept in a doubleheader by Arizona earlier in the week, and 2 days later they got swept again in a doubleheader by Minnesota.
Well, if Minnesota wants to make a move, that's how you do it.
That's how you do it. Beat the guy in front of you. So I picked Minnesota to win that division. You picked them to go to the World Series, so they're starting to make a move. Houston and Seattle are tied, and Texas is 6.5 back. And Scherzer's going to be out probably forever, and I don't think he's going to make it. It looks like DeGrom might not make it back, and I think Texas is done. They're done. In the National League, the Phillies are up 7.5 on Atlanta and 8 on the Mets. And the Mets were in second place there for a while, for a day or two. Atlanta, what did I say a few weeks ago? They're not going to make the playoffs. They're crippled. They're hurt, and the pitchers they do have are 103. They're on Social Security. In the Central Division, Milwaukee is up 8 on the Cardinals, and in the West, the Dodgers are up 2.5 on San Diego and 3.5 up on the Diamondbacks. So that thing is tightening up. Now they got Mookie Betts back to play right field, but he can't pitch. So I don't know how much that's going to help them. They're just, I don't know what they're going to do for pitchers. All right, the AL wild card. It's New York / Baltimore, Minnesota, and Kansas City. Boston is 2.5 back in the wild card. Seattle 3 back. Now, this is important. Seattle and Houston, remember, are tied for first place in the Central. But Seattle's 3 back, so that means Houston's 3.5 back or 3 back in the wild card.
Well, isn't that what happened last year with these
That's right. Teams? So only one team's going to come out of the West. See, there's only 2 byes, so that it'll probably be from the Central and the East. So it looks like only one of those 2 real good teams is going to make the playoffs. We know there's still a month, so it's
still a lot of baseball left.
There's still a lot of baseball to be played. In the National League, it's San Diego, Arizona, and Atlanta hanging on by a thread. And the Mets are a half game back of Atlanta, San Francisco.
And they were sellers.
And they're losing record. And they're 1.5 games back, and the Cardinals are 2 games back. The Cubs are 3.5 back, and Pittsburgh 5. And Pittsburgh's last place. Okay. There are 12 teams with losing records. Now, I'm had to get that in there.
And they're probably all in the National League.
I mean, the White Sox count for 2. Anyway, I had to make sure that's in there now because a couple of weeks ago, your buddy was going to have me arrested for not having it in the report. Right. But anyway, that's all I've got. I mean, it was a busy week, and I can't. There was a couple of games where the umpires made some pretty bad balls and strike calls.
Yeah, I've been watching some
but
auditors.
I just didn't bring it up because there's no point.
Yeah,
it does hurt though when it costs somebody a ball game. That's when it's really bad. So, what was the question you had for me?
I just want to make sure I get it right. Let's see. If I don't find it, I guess I'm not very good prepared tonight. He wants to know, this is from Miko, he wants to know your feelings on Wood from the Nationals, since you watch a lot of Nationals games, because he saw him some in the minors, and he wanted to know what your feelings are of him so far in the majors.
Well, the kid's got tremendous potential. I mean, you talk about a high ceiling? Well, yes. Of course, he's now, this is kind of funny because when he comes up to bat, they put the block up there. His block is like this.
Yeah, he's a big man.
He has a rectangle. He doesn't have a square. He's got a rectangle.
He's a big man. I was going to put it out there. Yeah.
Now, see, this is the way your old father thinks. I've always thought this way. I came out of the womb thinking this way.
Right.
I'm sitting there, and the first thing crossed my mind is, how is the electronic strike zone going to figure that one out?
Right.
So anyway, so he's got a big strike zone, so he does strike out some.
Right.
But he has learned. I don't know who taught him. Maybe in the minors, maybe it's with the Nationals, the hitting coach. He's hitting the ball the opposite way a lot, so he's getting more base hits. He's doing very well at the plate. His liabilities in the outfield. He's not the greatest outfielder yet. He's got a lot to learn out there. He's made a couple of bad throws. He missed a fly ball, cost him a run one night because he didn't play it right. However, at this point, he's a better outfielder than Soto. I will say that. Soto, they showed the highlights of the Yankee game the other day when they had played the doubleheader and they split. Oh, my word. He made a catch in the outfield. I don't know how he caught the ball. He just threw the glove up. And he takes the worst angles on fly balls. Soto does. Now, he hits home runs.
Can I ask you about, because since
this kid, okay, right now, he's a work in progress, but he has got a ceiling. And I mean, he's hit a couple of home runs. He's got some power, but right now he's just trying to make contact.
He's pretty fast too. I mean,
he's 6'8". He takes 3 steps. He's on second base.
Well, that's like delicate. I got to see his first game, which was awesome against them because I watched it on the Spanish telecast. So it wasn't blacked out, so I could watch it. It's been a while since I took Spanish, so I just I turned that off. But I just watched it. But getting back, you brought up Soto, and do you think Soto's a star though, right? Even though
of course he's a star, but he
gets lost in the outfield some. But it feels like he is a guy that went to San Diego and then went back to the East Coast to New York, and it doesn't feel like he gets the superstar. And I know he's playing with Judge, but still,
he had 2 home
New
runs.
York has enough room for multiple stars.
They beat Texas 8-7 yesterday, and he hit 2 home runs. Judge hit 1, and Stanton hit 1. Right. I mean, it was home run derby. And then Texas hit a couple. So I mean, they were winning 8-1 or something. They wound up winning 8-7. But he's a great player. And he's got speed and everything, but when he plays the outfield, it might be too. He's having some problems getting used to Yankee Stadium and that playing right field in Yankee Stadium. But because he takes bad angles on the ball, they were playing a game against I think it was the Royals, and left-handed batter hit a line drive, and he cut straight across the outfield to make the catch instead of running on the angle toward the wall. And he reached up to catch, and the ball went over his glove, went up against the wall, and 2 runs scored.
Right.
But he just took the wrong angle, and I've seen him do it a couple of times. Yesterday, he looked like he was going to make a diving catch, and he dropped the ball.
That discussion came up with some friends of mine as well about Soto, and it's some reason why he's just not getting that love he had when he was with the Nationals.
Well, he's getting the love in New York. The fans love him. But I mean, if you're on the same team with Judge, you're going to be second, third place. I mean, right. It's like being in Philly and Harper having a good year. I mean,
it's the Mantle Maris thing here right now with Judge, Soto. I mean, then you got Stanton as well. I mean, they got a murderer's row there now. I mean, Austin Wells. I mean, that team they could score bunches and quick. You got anything else?
Their bullpen is giving them problems, just like
which was their strength, and now it's kind of
they're having problems. Their closer's blown 5 games.
You got anything else for us tonight before we take off, Dad?
No, I'll probably go in there and watch the game at 7 o'clock on ESPN because it's the only one on.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to watch another game when there's only one on.
Right. Yeah. So we got maybe some Little League World Series somewhere.
Oh, I do have a yogi. Yeah, well, that starts this coming weekend, I think.
Yeah.
I do have another yogi ism. He was on a road trip, so he called back to check on his family. He called back after the game and he asked his wife. He said, "Well, what did y'all do today?" And she said, "I took the kids to see Dr. Shivago." And he said, "What's wrong with them now?" That's Yogi.
That's Yogi. All right, we're going to leave with that. Thank you for everybody that watches. Thank you for choosing to watch our video and taking the time to say hi and thumbs up. If you have a question for Pop, please ask it. And just try to keep it to baseball. And until next time, see ya.